For centuries, a single horrifying idea has captivated and terrified us: the dead rising from their graves. Today, we know them as zombies, symbols of apocalypse, survival, and the ultimate horror. But the story of the zombie reaches far beyond Hollywood blockbusters, deep into the spiritual traditions of West Africa and the Caribbean. Are you ready to unearth the real history of the undead? Let's dig in. The earliest roots of the zombie myth don't come from a lab or a B-movie, but from Haitian folklore. This legend was born from a powerful fusion of African spiritual beliefs and the brutal, soul-crushing realities of slavery. In Haitian Vodou, it was believed that a sorcerer known as a boka possessed the dark power to reanimate the dead, but these weren't the flesh-eating monsters we know today. These reanimated bodies were soulless and enslaved, victims themselves, trapped in a living death, completely stripped of their free will. For the enslaved Africans forced to work the sugarcane fields, the zombie wasn't just a scary story told around a fire. It was a terrifying metaphor for their own bondage, their own loss of identity and freedom. The fear wasn't being eaten by a zombie. The fear was becoming one. When Haiti heroically won its independence in 1804, becoming the first free black republic, the legend of the zombie began to shift. It evolved from a symbol of slavery into a cautionary tale. It became a warning about what happens when a soul loses its connection to its community, its family, its very humanity. It was a story about social and spiritual death, a fate perhaps worse than physical death. But this deeply cultural and symbolic belief was about to be discovered by the Western world, and its meaning would be twisted forever. Western explorers and writers, drawn to the exotic tales of the Caribbean, encountered these stories and, through a lens of misunderstanding and prejudice, began to distort them. The complex, tragic figure of the Haitian zombie was on its way to becoming a cheap thrill. The early 20th century marked a dark turn for the zombie's public image. Fueled by American sensationalism and racism, the zombie was transformed into a spectacle. The 1932 film White Zombie, starring Bela Lugosi, is a perfect example. It portrayed voodoo not as a complex religion, but as a sinister, mysterious force. It exoticized the Haitian people and turned a profound cultural belief into shallow, spooky entertainment. The zombie was no longer a tragic victim. It was now a mindless puppet, a prop in a horror story designed for a Western audience. This was the zombie's first step into mainstream pop culture, but it was a far cry from the creature that would one day take over the world. The monster we all know and fear was still waiting in the wings, ready for its grand entrance. And that entrance came in 1968. A low-budget, black-and-white independent film called Night of the Living Dead, directed by the legendary George A. Romero, changed everything. This was the birth of the modern zombie. Romero's creations were no longer controlled by a voodoo sorcerer. Instead, they were the result of science gone wrong, reanimated by mysterious radiation from a fallen satellite. They were mindless, shambling, and worst of all, they were contagious and hungry for human flesh. Romero didn't just create a new kind of monster. He tapped directly into the anxieties of his time. His zombies were a powerful mirror reflecting the chaos of the Cold War era, the widespread civil unrest, and a deep-seated fear of conformity. They were a horrifying symbol of mass consumerism, the loss of individuality, and the terrifyingly fragile nature of society itself. The zombie apocalypse had begun. Following Romero's lead, the zombie continued to evolve, adapting to the fears of each new decade. The 1980s, an era of excess and dark humor, gave us films like The Return of the Living Dead. Suddenly, zombies weren't just shambling anymore. They could run, they could think, and they could even talk, famously groaning for brains. This blend of horror and comedy cemented the zombie's status as a pop culture icon, shifting it from pure terror into something more self-aware and, in a strange way, more fun. Then came the 2000s, and with them, a new age of fear. The world was growing more anxious about global pandemics and biological threats. This anxiety gave birth to a new kind of zombie. Films like 28 Days Later and World War Z traded magical resurrection for viral infection. The zombies in these stories were not undead, but infected, living humans driven by a rage-inducing virus. The horror became more grounded, more realistic, and arguably much more terrifying. It was no longer about the dead coming back. It was about the living turning on each other with terrifying speed and ferocity. It was during this time that video games truly took the zombie mythos and ran with it, pushing it far beyond the limits of a 2-hour movie. Franchises like Resident Evil and The Last of Us didn't just let us watch the apocalypse, they made us live it. They expanded the mythology, weaving intricate stories of corporate greed, scientific hubris, and the desperate struggle for survival. These modern zombie narratives shifted the focus. The monsters were still there, but the real story was about humanity. The central question was no longer just, how do we kill the undead? It became, how do we stay alive on the inside? How do we hold on to our compassion, our morality, and our hope when the world itself has lost its soul? The zombie apocalypse became the ultimate test of character. Today, the zombie remains a powerful and ever-changing mirror of our modern age. It evolves with our anxieties, whether they're biological, technological, or social. Think about it. The fear of a viral pandemic gave us the infected. The fear of mindless consumerism gave us Romero's mall-shambling ghouls. The fear of losing our autonomy is right there in the zombie's oldest origins. Whether born from voodoo magic in a Haitian cane field, a nuclear disaster, or a mutated fungus, the zombie continues to represent the same timeless human truth. Our deep-seated fear of losing control, our identity, and our morality in the face of overwhelming chaos. From the tragic folklore of enslaved people to the biggest blockbusters and video games on the planet, the zombie has walked a long, dark, and fascinating road through our collective history. It's a creature that has been reanimated time and time again, not by magic or science, but by our own fears. The zombie isn't just a monster, it's a reflection of us, because in every zombie story, buried beneath all the decay and dread, lies the ultimate question that we must all eventually face. What does it truly mean to be alive? Thanks so much for joining me on this journey through the history of the undead. What if the person you love most in the world had changed? I don't mean they started liking a different kind of music or picked up a new weird hobby. I mean, what if they fundamentally changed into something else? Something the world tells you to fear, to run from, to fight. What if your girlfriend turned into a zombie? And what if, despite everything, you still loved her? That's what happened. Her name is Chloe. Her laugh used to be the brightest sound in any room. Her eyes, this brilliant shade of hazel, could see right into my soul. We had plans. A small cottage, maybe a dog, a lifetime of inside jokes and shared dreams. Then the outbreak happened. It was chaos, a blur of sirens and screams that I try my best to forget. One evening, a scratch. That's all it took. A single moment of bad luck. I watched it happen. The fever, the confusion, the slow fading of the person I knew. Everyone said to leave. My friends, what was left of my family, they all begged me to run. She's not her anymore, they'd say. It's just a shell, it's dangerous. And logically, I knew they were right. I saw the way she looked at me sometimes, with an emptiness that chilled me to the bone. I saw the groans that replaced her words, the clumsy shuffling that replaced her graceful walk. But then there are moments, glimmers. I was playing our favorite song on my old acoustic guitar one afternoon, a sad, slow melody we used to dance to in the kitchen, and she stopped. She just stood there in the middle of the living room, her head tilted. Her groaning softened just for a second. In that moment, I swear I saw it. A flicker of recognition. A ghost of the Chloe I knew, lost somewhere inside. So I stayed. How could I not? You don't just abandon the love of your life because they get sick. This is just a very, very different kind of sickness. My life has become a routine of adaptation. Instead of cooking her favorite pasta, I now have to source, well, let's just say it's not pasta. It's the hardest thing I've ever had to do, finding ways to feed her that don't involve hurting anyone. It's a constant gut-wrenching moral tightrope walk. Instead of movie nights, we have sensory nights. I'll find things with interesting textures for her to touch. A soft blanket, a rough piece of bark, smooth stones. I'll light candles with strong scents like lavender or pine, trying to spark any kind of response. I talk to her all the time. I tell her about my day, about the birds I saw outside the boarded-up windows. I read to her from her favorite books, even though her eyes just stare blankly at the wall. I do it because I need to believe she's in there, listening. I hold her hand. It's cold, unnaturally so, but sometimes her fingers will twitch, a faint, phantom grip. Is it just an involuntary muscle spasm? Or is it her trying to hold my hand back? I have to believe it's the latter. Of course, it's not all quiet moments and glimmers of hope. There are terrifying times when the hunger takes over completely and she lunges, snarling. All the gentleness vanishes, replaced by a raw, predatory instinct. In those moments, she's not Chloe, she's just a zombie. I've gotten good at dodging. I've reinforced the doors. I have a safe room, where I have to lock myself in sometimes, listening to her scratching and banging on the other side. My heart shatters into a million pieces every single time. Lying there in the dark, I wonder if I'm a fool. Am I just a man in love with a memory, keeping a monster in his house? But then the rage passes. She slumps to the floor, exhausted, and the low, mournful groan returns. It's a sound of pain, of confusion. And I can't help but see my Chloe again, trapped and scared. So I'll open the door slowly and sit on the floor a few feet away, just keeping her company until she falls into that strange, motionless state that passes for sleep. I found an old photo album the other day. I sat with her, turning the pages. "Look, Chloe," I said, my voice cracking. "That's us at the beach. Remember how you got that ridiculous sunburn on your nose?" I pointed to the smiling girl in the photo, her arms slung around my shoulder, the sun in her hair. She just stared, her jaw slack. But as I went to turn the page, her hand, her cold, stiff hand, landed on the picture. It just rested there. It didn't move. She didn't try to eat the album or tear the page, she just held it. My breath caught in my throat. Tears streamed down my face, but for the first time in a long time, they weren't tears of pure sorrow. They were something more complex. Maybe it was a reflex. Maybe the shiny surface just caught her eye. But maybe, just maybe, it was her. Acknowledging a memory. Acknowledging us. People wouldn't understand. They'd call me crazy. They'd say I'm putting myself and potentially others in danger. And maybe they're right. But love isn't logical. It doesn't follow rules. When you promise someone in sickness and in health, you don't get to pick and choose the sickness. You don't get to say, "Oh, sorry, a zombie apocalypse voids the warranty." My hope is a flickering candle in a hurricane, but it's still burning. I search for news of a cure, a treatment, anything. I hoard my supplies, fortify our home, and protect her not just from the world, but from herself. I protect the memory of us. Because if I give up, if I leave her, then Chloe is truly gone. But as long as I'm here, talking to her, holding her hand, showing her photos of a life we once had, a part of her survives, a part of us survives. Love is a promise. It's a stubborn, irrational, and sometimes dangerous thing, but it's also the only thing that makes any of this bearable. It's the only reason I get up in the morning, for that 1 in a million chance that I'll see her in there again, for the girl with the hazel eyes and the brilliant laugh who I know is still fighting, somewhere deep inside, and I will never, ever stop fighting for her. Thanks for listening to my story. It's not an easy one to tell or to live. If you've ever had to fight for someone you love against all odds, maybe you understand a little. If you found this story compelling, please consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel. It helps more than you know. Stay safe out there.